The GMT is one of the most popular watches when it comes to enthusiasts. This allows the wearer to track 2 or more different time zones at the same time. This is usually done with a fourth hand that will point towards a 24-hour scale. Typically though, GMT watches cost an absolute fortune. But with the recent release of some very affordable GMT movements, there are now plenty of options when it comes to affordable mechanical GMT watches. So let's get into the best 15 affordable GMT watches for enthusiasts. But before we do, make sure you are subscribed so that you never miss a video. Now, before we get into my top 10, let me show you 5 honourable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. And that's not because these are bad watches. They are all very, very good in fact. But you guys know that I like to go with under the radar picks in these top 10 videos. And well, these next watches are already so popular. So if you want a tried and tested GMT by a big brand, these 5 are the ones to go for. The first GMT on today's video is one that has been around now for a long time, that being the Citizen Nighthawk. Now there's actually 2 variants of this watch, the older model that comes with a bracelet and the newer model that comes with a leather strap. Both are great looking GMT watches. Both of them feature an inner rotating flight bezel that allows for calculations of distance whilst flying. This is a quartz GMT that has a double-sided GMT hand, so every 12 hours, each side takes a turn displaying the second time zone using the correct 12-hour scale. Miyota debuted the automatic 9075 GMT movement in late 2022 inside of the Bulliver Wilton. This is a true GMT movement that has a high beat rate and a power reserve of 42 hours. The Bulliver Wilton model that debuted the movement isn't what we expected. It's a dress-style watch that features a globe motif on the dial, where typically we only see sports watches using GMT movements. So if you want a dressy style watch that features an automatic GMT caliber, this Bulliver is really one of the only options. A watch that caught fire pretty quickly after release was the Q Timex GMT, and it's really no surprise why it did. Timex took the super sporty approach for this release, featuring heavy dive watch design cues that watch enthusiasts love. The Q range from Timex was already so popular, so this GMT was naturally a great addition to the lineup. It is worth noting that it only features a quartz movement, but it's hard to compete with the simplistic yet very well designed aesthetic of the Q GMT. Probably the most popular affordable GMT watch has to be the Seiko 5 SSK range. This is a lineup that debuted the in-house automatic NH34 GMT movement, which we'll see feature heavily in the next section of the video. The SSK range features all of those Seiko dive watch design cues that serious watch collectors absolutely adore, with its 4 o'clock crown and Jubilee bracelet. Although the SSK range doesn't offer the best bang for buck in terms of specs, it certainly delivers on the looks with an awesome movement. Although technically not a GMT watch, the Casio World Time more than outperforms any watch we'll be featuring today. It has the capabilities to display over 30 different time zones with just a few clicks of a button, as well as all of the other amazing Casio features that we have come to expect. So if you want a world time computer on the wrist, then the Casio AE1200 is an absolute no-brainer. Track any time zone anytime, but it does lack that sporty and premium aesthetic that comes with other GMT watches. So those were the 5 obvious picks when it comes to affordable GMT watches. As always though, when you take a look at micro brands, you tend to find watches that are more unique and offer more value for money. So here are my top 10 picks for the best affordable GMT watches. This first watch features great lume, a great movement, and looks like no other GMT watch on today's video. If you want a GMT that has some field watch design cues but still looks sporty and modern, then this is the one to go for. This is the Nodus Sector GMT. It features the Seiko NH34 movement, a flat sapphire crystal, and a screw down crown aiding the 10 bar water resistance. This watch either comes on a beautiful bracelet or rubber strap. The wearing dimensions are absolutely killer on this watch, with a 38mm case and a curvaceous 12mm thickness. Although the standout feature on this watch for me is the dial, featuring Arabic numerals around the perimeter and a cutout 24-hour scale in the center for the GMT feature. You might also notice a beautiful blue GMT hand, allowing this watch to be paired up so easily with any strap featuring blue accents. The design design on this one is simple and clean, and offers an easy experience with the GMT feature. The nodus sector is rather expensive at around $500, but it's a fantastic looking GMT watch. Now, if that last watch was slightly out of your budget, don't worry, I have you covered. This next one is around half the price, but still has an incredible level of quality. Sticking with the field watch style, however going with a much more traditional approach, we have the Swiss watch company ARC GMT. The Swiss watch company, or SWC, is widely known in the enthusiast world for creating some incredible field watches. The same can be said for this particular watch. Now, this is a very different GMT than the others that we'll be featuring. This watch doesn't feature a fourth GMT hand, instead opting for a colour matched 6 o'clock window that will display the hour in your second time zone. This is achieved by the Swiss Ronda 515H quartz movement, and because this is a quartz piece, we do get a nice slender 9mm thickness, which is near impossible to achieve with affordable mechanical counterparts. One thing SWC is popular for is their anti-reflective treatment on the crystal, and this watch is no different, featuring 16 layers of AR coatings, meaning that the watch will be crystal clear regardless of conditions. If you want a super affordable GMT watch by a Swiss-made micro brand, this is the one to go for. Okay, so if you want a GMT that features an automatic movement and a world time bezel, then this new release is the one to go for. As usual with Islander, their new release is absolutely fantastic value for money. This is the Islander Calabro, a new range of world time GMT watches by the American watch brand. If you didn't already know, Islander is run by Mark over at the Long Island Watch YouTube channel. Initially, Islander first created some SKX homages with great specifications. Since then, they have become much bigger and better, and this new model is the perfect example of that. This piece features the NH34 automatic movement, a stunning world time bezel, and 20 bar water resistance, and you have plenty of choice when it comes to colour, with a striking gold Pogue-like offering, a black dial variant, a blue and white combination, and even a beautiful green option too. All of these look super sporty, heavily feature aviation watch design cues, and offer an incredible spec sheet for the fairly low price point. Islander has nailed the details on this release, with colour matched date wheels and 24-hour chapter rings. If you want a world time bezel, this is the one to go for. Next up, we have an incredibly unique looking GMT, and you can even get this watch with a fully loomed dial. I make it very clear on this channel that I personally value originality when it comes to watch design. It's fair to say that this watch from Revolut certainly has it, and in abundance. This is the Revolut R10 Admiral GMT, and this watch features an incredibly unique dial design that I've never seen on another watch. Firstly, this watch features great specs for the money, with the NH34 automatic movement, 20 bar water resistance, sapphire glass, and a clasp that features a glide lock mechanism. For me though, the standout feature on these watches are the dials, featuring unique hour markers that cover the outer dial completely and semi-skeletonized colour matched hands. Revolut has also done a fantastic job with the colour schemes of the different watches, matching dials, bezels and hands together flawlessly. Even the 24-hour chapter rings match the aesthetics perfectly, and for around $300, the R10 Admiral is a serious contender for the best value GMT on the planet. Now, if that last watch was a little bit too much of an acquired taste for you, this next watch follows a much more traditional approach. We'll be visiting Sweden for this next pick, and I believe that this is the first Swedish watch that I've ever actually featured on the channel. This is an automatic GMT by Nezumi, and this watch takes a much more classic military approach in its design, combining both field and pilot watch design elements to create a fantastically legible GMT watch. This is the Nezumi Aviera, a watch by a Swedish micro brand that's hand assembled in Germany, where it's clear that it got a lot of its inspiration from. This piece again features the Seiko NH34 automatic movement. This time we have a fixed steel outer bezel that displays the second time zone, and I'm happy to say that again we see a 20 bar water resistance. This piece comes with a fan favourite 40mm case and 20mm lug width, and with the muted colour scheme you'll have endless fun swapping the straps out on this watch. I specifically like this one for its vintage Rolex Explorer style Arabic numerals, which give the watch an old-fashioned vibe, and for just $350, this one certainly catches the eye. Okay, if you're looking for a GMT that is packed with detail, then this next watch is probably the one for you. This next watch is definitely a bit crazy and a complete contrast to the last watch that we showed. This is the Aerotech Ace X GMT Diver. Now there's 3 colorways to choose from, all of which are a bit crazy and are jam-packed with details. The first thing you might notice with this model is the inner rotating bezel, which is operated by the crown at the 2 o'clock. This inner bezel features a 24-hour scale, which can be rotated quickly to track different time zones with a simple turn. However, because this is a diver GMT, we also see a dive time bezel on the outer, with traditional minute markings. But let's be honest, the most polarizing part of this watch will be the dials, with them featuring a deep ripple texture. Now these dials do allow for some incredible light play, so the dial will feel alive throughout the day in different lighting scenarios. We see the use of the NH34 movement, 20 bar water resistance, and double domed sapphire. And for under $500, you get a watch exploding with eye-catching details that has great specifications. This next watch is by an Italian micro brand, and it's probably one of the most unique on the entire planet. That's because this brand purposely sells watches that look like they've been through a war. Out of Order is a brand best known for purposely aging the look of their watches. They do this in multiple ways, scratching steel cases, using faded colours on the dial and bezel, and featuring vintage design cues to help with the overall look. Now, Out of Order actually sells a range of different GMTs. The entry-level ones come with a Swiss quartz movement, the mid-range ones come with the Seiko NH34, and the high-end ones come with a Swiss automatic. And the prices range from $300 to $1,000 depending on the movement that you want. The best value probably sits with the mid-range model, which offers a 30 bar water resistance and an incredible use of colour. You'll probably notice that the cases on these watches look like they've seen some tough times, with some areas that look rusted and beaten up. However, Out of Order use long-lasting materials, so these watches should keep this aged look for years to come. Now, if you're wanting to get into the Miyota 9075 movement and only looking to spend around $200, then this next watch is the one to go for. Now, this watch is currently only on pre-order, but it is offering some of the best value for money you'll find in the affordable GMT market. This is the Estoril by Portuguese micro brand Bareilles. It's clear that this watch is heavily inspired by various models, including a vintage Omega Seamaster reference, but it offers a great spec sheet for the $500 price tag. Ticking away inside of this piece is the true GMT Miyota 9075, which, as you can probably tell, is the movement that isn't usually found inside of these micro brand GMTs, with most of them opting to use the NH34 instead. You get a fully capable 30 bar water resistance, a stunning presidential style bracelet, and a domed sapphire. You also get a sapphire bezel to ensure that the durability is high. You also get 7 choices of colour, with different bezel, dial and hands to choose from, with some being much more muted in colour and some being much more flamboyant and fun. The Bareilles represents great value in the affordable GMT market. Next up, we'll be visiting an out-and-out pilot watch GMT, and this one is very traditional in its design, and it features a movement that can't be found on any of the other watches that we're featuring on today's video. We'll be visiting popular Chinese micro brand Mercure for this next watch. This is the Mercure GMT Pilot. I know, a very imaginative name, but this watch does exactly what it says on the tin. It follows all of the traditional design elements we usually see in a traditional pilot's watch. This is confirmed by the triangle with 2 dots at the 12 o'clock. Now, the movement inside this GMT is the Chinese HZ6460. This is an automatic GMT movement with a high beat rate and features 25 joules. This Chinese movement is basically a clone of the Swiss ETA 2836, and it appears in many of the Chinese GMT homage watches. Now, in terms of value, I don't think this watch represents it as well as the other watches that we featured, as this watch comes in around the $500 mark. But in terms of nailing that pilot watch GMT aesthetic, it does a very good job. But it does come with a sapphire crystal, 10 bar water resistance, and a smaller central GMT feature. Okay, so the final GMT on today's video is without question one of of the cheapest mechanical GMTs that you can find in the world, with this watch only coming in at around the $150 mark. If you are on a super tight budget but still want a piece of the automatic GMT market, then fear not, I&W have you covered. This watch is available to buy on AliExpress for a super budget price. This piece comes with the Seiko NH34 automatic movement, a sapphire crystal, and a very dressy dial. Now, I'm 99% sure that this watch is some sort of clomage of a popular watch, but given the incredible value it represents, it makes it a good option, as there aren't any other mechanical GMTs around this price point. It features a Cartier tank style dial with the Roman numerals and silver colour tone, with an inner GMT ring and hand fulfilling the second time zone feature. It features some great dial work, with the pattern work in the centre and a very elegant handset, so this is definitely a dressy style GMT. So if you want something that's a bit more formal, then the I&W Carnival GMT is one to check out. I'll include some links in the description to buy some of the watches that we featured today, and toptierticker.com has you covered for some cool affordable pre-owned watches. The links for both of them are in the description. If you liked this video and fancy some more affordable watch suggestions, then be sure to watch my video here on 10 watches that look expensive but actually aren't.